A lot of people go their whole lives and don't see anything quite that wild.
A quiet strip of farmland along the Wabash River suddenly transformed into the site of one of the most infamous rock festivals in Midwest history. Officially, it was called the Erie Canal Soda Pop Festival, but most people know it simply as Bull Island. In 1972, rock music was everywhere. You couldn't escape it. Promoters Bob Alexander and Tom Duncan saw the craze and wanted to bring it home to the Midwest. Just 2 months earlier, on July 2nd, they had hosted the Bosse Field Freedom Fest in Evansville, Indiana. They booked big names, Tina Turner, Edgar Winter, and Dr. John.
But they enjoyed, they loved doing that one at Bosse Field, but caused a lot of problems at Bosse Field.
The show was a hit, but with the big acts came a new kind of crowd, hippies, and Evansville wasn't quite ready for them.
Then him and Alexander wanted to do a bigger one.
So, Alexander and Duncan decided to go all in with a second festival for Labor Day weekend. This time, though, Evansville wanted nothing to do with it.
Well, Russell Lloyd, the mayor, said, there ain't no way you guys are going to do anything in Evansville or Vanderbilt County again.
But it didn't take long for them to line up another venue.
They were going to do it at the Chandler Raceway in Chandler, Indiana, and they were only expecting to have about 50,000 people.
And before long, they had their venue and some major acts lined up, including Black Sabbath and Joe Cocker. Promotion kicked off in a big way. A full-page ad ran in Rolling Stone magazine, and pre-sale tickets began moving fast. But their advertising also drew national attention, something they didn't quite expect.
WLS got a hold of this information from an ad in the Rolling Stone magazine. And they broadcast it, from what I read, like every 30 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever, for quite a while. And that had to be the reason that it drew such a massive crowd of people.
Soon, it wasn't just Indiana preparing for the festival. People from across the country began heading toward the Midwest. And with them, that same unusual crowd started returning.
Invaded Chandler, they invaded Evansville, and it became pretty apparent that they had way more people than they were expected.
Local officials grew uneasy. Counties across Indiana and even in neighboring Illinois decided to take action.
And Work County said, no way, you ain't doing it here. Posey County turned against them, tried to stop them or was going to put injunctions against them. So was Gibson County. Everybody around here was putting injunctions against them, or was going to, if they tried to, make it happen in their area.
There were injunctions filed by every county in southwestern Indiana to stop the festival.
With nowhere left to go and time running out, the promoters had to act quickly. Thousands of ticket holders were expecting a show.
So they're looking pretty hard for a place that they could get away with putting on a festival like that, and they came across Bull Island. And Bull Island is on the Indiana side of the Wabash, but belongs to Illinois. So the authorities on both states weren't sure how to handle it. They didn't know who had jurisdiction. The owner's a guy named Irvin Hagedorn. They approached him about it and said they wanted to buy the land. He wanted $200,000 for it, and they put down $50,000. They never paid the $200,000 after the festival.
They got that ground from that guy on Tuesday. He okayed it. But the concert started Saturday.
So they scrambled, working around the clock to pull what they could together.
With the logistics they had to do, they was lucky they had anything down there.
Finally, the festival was officially on. For many who made the journey, Bull Island was their first glimpse at a massive rock festival.
I was working on a construction crew. We had the radio on WLS a lot out of Chicago, and they started announcing that they were going to have a big rock festival in Chandler, Indiana. And I was pretty determined that I was going to go to it. I was too young to go to Woodstock, and I just didn't want to miss this one.
The thought of the magnitude, the amount of people, and the bands that were supposed to be there, I was curious. It was something that had never happened in our area.
But getting there was an adventure of its own.
I had to try to find somebody that would go with me. I had a car, but it wasn't real dependable, so I planned to hitchhike. And I just turned 19 at the time. And the only buddy that would go with me was 3 years younger than I am. I'm sure he didn't talk to his parents about it. He just said, I'll go. We caught probably 5 or 6 rides on the way there. Luckily, the last ride we caught, it was a guy and a girl that were going to Bull Island.
We weren't prepared. We did not take a cooler with us. We didn't take a drink.
We took some cans of Vienna sausages, some crackers, some candy bars, and 2 canteens of water.
When they got there, they found a madhouse before they even reached the festival grounds.
Once we got down there, oh my God, what a nightmare. Cars, I mean, I never, old country boy, Jesus, frog, all the cars everywhere.
It was full. There wasn't no room nowhere for no cars. It was packed.
We had to park out on the interstate, and I know we walked probably 5 to 10 miles to get in there.
I remember walking quite a ways. It seemed like quite a ways. I determined it's only like 3 miles from the interstate to the site. Anyone was just trying to get along however they could to get there, basically.
And it was a long line of people. They were riding on top of cars and any way they could get in there, but we walked.
Bonfires going everywhere, music was playing. It was just unbelievable for a 17-year-old to see.
And we got up to where the ticket booth was, and of course people were lined up at the ticket booth. We started noticing that people were walking through the cornfield instead of standing in line. And we thought, well, maybe they're getting in that way. So we turned around and they'd stomp the corn down, they'd stomp the fence down, and we just walked behind everybody else and walked right on in the festival.
And when we got to the gate, it was kind of chaos. There really wasn't anyone there. I mean, we was prepared to pay if we had to, but by this time it had broken up and we just walked in.
The gate was gone. There was no gate there.
When fans finally made it in, conditions were rough. The farmland was swampy. Organizers had only days to bulldoze paths and clear the ground. Facilities were almost non-existent.
They had 6 portalettes for everybody there. And by the time I got to one of the portalettes, the excrement was above the toilet. So you didn't want to use any of them. So they had these 2 places everybody was going. One of them was kind of a marshy area they called the turd field. And that's where we went. The other one, they had a thing called, I'll say, the crap ditch. And I found out later that ditch, I thought it was for drainage, but apparently they'd put that ditch there to keep people from driving their cars closer to the stage.
In the morning when the daylight came and you could see, oh my God, naked bodies everywhere, everywhere. I mean, they had no facilities. They just jumped in the river. People out there taking baths, washing their hair and just everything in that river. So, but that's the way it goes,
And everywhere there were drugs.
First thing we saw, and it shocked us, was the people selling drugs. There was an area I found out later they were calling Alice in Wonderland Avenue or Alley.
Hundreds of booths set up and just all kinds of drugs. So much pot being smoked that guys burn all the time from all the smoke. You name them, they had it.
It was like being at a carnival where they're selling corn dogs. It was just that way. They had people hawking what they had. There were signs everywhere. There was a girl completely naked with a cardboard pizza top that had the price of acid on it.
Obviously, I saw a lot of drug use. I saw people had maybe blankets out on their car or on the grass or wherever. They had their drugs for sale. There's smoking paraphernalia for sale. I do remember seeing someone shooting up heroin. I assume that's what it was. I'd never seen that in my life. But the crowd they were calm and peaceful.
But the lineup also didn't go as planned.
The bands canceled because they wanted more money. They signed a contract saying that there was only going to be maybe 30 to 40,000 people there. Well, when these people seen that there was 300,000+ people there, they thought, well, we deserve more money.
Black Sabbath and Joe Cocker came on Saturday, and they saw that there was about 275,000 people there. They thought there'd be 50,000, and they demanded $30,000 more each one. They ended up just walking off.
Still, some bands carried on.
Band I really remember clearly was Albert King. He's a old black blues player, really good. And second band I remember that day, that first day, was a band called Bertha. It was an all-girl band, and they were pretty good. I ended up buying one of their albums when I got home. And Foghat played that day. And those are the three bands I remember on Saturday. Ted Nugent started. It was Saturday night going into Sunday, and he started late. And he was playing. This is the way I remember it. And I listened to him for a couple of hours, and then I fell asleep. And I woke up maybe 3 hours later, and he was still playing.
Food and water quickly became scarce. Vendors took advantage, jacking up the prices.
I stood in line with everybody, and everybody was complaining because they wanted $10 a hamburger, which in today's money, that's $77. And I had the girl come up, and I started to hand her, I told her what I wanted. She brought 2 hamburgers up. I got my 20 out, started to hand it to her, and people behind me said, "F this place, let's take it." And the table that I was in front of went over, and I'm standing there holding a 20, and my burgers are laying on the ground getting trampled. And she ran off to the corner with the rest of the concession people. And I thought, you know, if I don't run in there and get something to eat, I'm not gonna eat anything. So I ran with the crowd. I got a couple hamburgers off the grills and went back to my buddy so we'd have something to eat. But nobody hurt them, nobody, did anything to them.
And from there, the stories only got crazier.
Apparently there's some cattle at Bull Island, and they decided they were going to kill the cow and cook it. And I guess they botched that pretty badly. And what I understand, that cow was just laying there sliced up dead the rest of the festival. She had gotten there and pitched her sleeping bag, what she thought would be an open area. But it was still an area people were driving through. And she got run over by I think a pickup truck. And they they loaded her on a truck, tried to get out, what I understand, and they couldn't get through. So they started passing her over the top of everybody, and finally got her out to where they could get her on a vehicle and took her to Evansville, and she survived it okay.
By the end of the weekend, supplies had run out, trucks were looted and burned.
People weren't as happy leaving as they were when they came in. Walking out of there, everybody was dirty, tired. They just wanted to go home.
Labor Day, we flew over the festival. By then, the crowd had really thinned out. I remember the interstate still being full. There were still people there, but the Reese catering truck and the supply truck that was there, they were already demolished and burned up. Just looked like toast on the ground, to be honest about it.
And as quickly as they came, thousands now had to find a way back home.
I ended up developing pneumonia. We ended up did get a ride pretty close to where I live, and John parked me underneath a overpass because I couldn't walk anymore, and put a sleeping bag over me, and he went walking down the highway, and lo and behold, my sister saw him, and she knew I was with him, and they went back and got me. And by then I was trying to walk down the road, and ended up at the hospital.
Bull Island was remembered in the press as a disaster. Bands walked out, fans looted food stands, and chaos reigned. But for those who were there, the memories are more complicated.
My curiosity is what kind of drew me to it. I figured that I'd never see anything like that again.
To me, it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I think it's the same thing for everybody that was there.
It wasn't a great concert, I'll put it that way, but it was a great time to be able to say that I was there. That meant a lot to me. That a lot of people are, wow, you really got to go that? Yes, I did. And it was an experience I'm glad I got to experience.
A lot of people go their whole lives and don't see anything quite that wild. And it stays in your memory because it's just an event that you don't see that every day.
I bet if you talk to 99% of the people that went, it was a good time.
I would like to say there's only 3 guys that kept this festival in memory. One of them was Ray Kessler, who passed away early this year, and he was the Posey County historian. Ray not only kept it alive, he also got a 50th anniversary going for it and emceed the anniversary. Another guy is a guy named Eric Vinson, who runs that Bull Island Facebook page. He's run it for years. And the third guy is that Herschel guy back there. Herschel has been getting posters signed and flyers signed and makes buttons, and he has kept the memory of it going. Those three guys have done more than anybody.
The Erie Canal Soda Pop Festival has gone down in history as one of the wildest concerts ever. For some, it was chaos. For others, it was freedom. But for everyone who went, it was unforgettable. Thanks for watching this episode of History Vault.